So first thing you do, and the most daunting thing to stare down, is a blank page. You got to get a nice head on there. You want it about the size of your hand. I would put it high rather than low because you don't want a lot of gravity pushing down on the image. It just doesn't look good. So get it up a little higher. I'm going to drop this just a little bit on my, it's a kind of a fancy drawing horse, but it's got a lot of options. Okay, so what I want to do is it's a 3/4 head. So the first thing I do, if I would suggest for most of you, is think about Andrew Loomis. He's one of the better people for just fundamental, if you don't have access to like an Atelier in your backyard, Loomis is quite a good option for studying how to break a head down, how to break a figure down, things like that. So what he starts with is kind of an egg, and then he lops off the side, right? And we're telling this egg is going this way. So our center line is going to be very important that we establish where it is. And that's telling me that there's less of this side and a lot of this side, which is a 3/4 going this way, going away from us, right? So it's not profile yet, but it's not straight on at all. So it's a 3/4. And there's extreme 3/4, and there's gentle 3/4, and there's 3/4 that are almost right on profile. The next thing is you got to establish some kind of eye line, and the eye line is going to be roughly estimated in there. It's not going to be way down here. It's not going to be way up here. It's going to be somewhere on this egg shape. And you notice how I've kind of carved a jaw out of the egg and put a little chin on it. But normally the egg would be more just like a shape like this. And I put a little cranial mass on the back. I start to carve the big shape of the face out of it. Now, it does have a neck, right? So we got to put a cylinder on there. And it's just going to be a nice cylinder coming down, right? And then you got traps somewhere on there. Clavicle, probably, again, if we were doing like the scaffolding underneath, he has like a collar on, so I'm going to probably incorporate that as part of the design element momentarily. But right now, I'm putting the under scaffolding. Here's the V-neck of the. It's like a dress shirt, kind of a white starch dress shirt. It's the mastoid muscle, large, big muscles that come down from back here, mastoid process behind here, behind your ear, down the front, split off, attach here, and those are the big ones responsible for the neck movement, right? So those are big power ones. The larynx, voice box, nestled in between in a corridor of information coming down here. Okay, so we've got this head, oval, neck, and then something starting to happen down here. That's fine for now. Let's not get carried away. I want you to think about the skull. I want you to think about the planes of the head. I want you to think about the rhythms of the head. Those are the 3 key areas. So we have the planes. We have the skull before that. And actually, if you want to do it in a hierarchy, the abstraction would come next, because that's muscles. So that's the muscles of the face. And the planes are the 2 combined. So those 2 equal the planes, right? So it's not going to be fancy. It's not going to be cutesy. I'm not worried about showing off my skills. I'm going to show you how these things start working. So what is this? It's a pair of sunglasses. What else is it? It's the skull orb where the eye goes into. Where's the nasal bone? Where's the cheekbone? Zygomatic bone. Okay, you see the skull starting to appear. The 2-cylinder, which is really a half cylinder that wraps around the face. Where's the mandible? Now, what about the abstraction? Well, muscles connect to the skull. Bones on the body are for 2 things, protection and locomotion. That's what they're used for, right? So on the skull, it protects what? The brain. The brow ridge and the orb of the eye, which the eye sits in, protects what? The eyeballs. Everything's for protection, right? So as I start to put on this nose, coming off of this angle, I hold my pencil up if I need to. I hold it up. I make the same angle. I make a little stretched out M, down, up, down. Can't see the far nostril very, very well or at all. Then I look at his nose type. What is the cartilage telling me? What's his ethnic type? Is it wide? Is it narrow? Is it ski jump? What is it? So right now, that's a nice placeholder. It's just a generic nose, pretty easy. So what we need to do now is, again, the ear is going to fall within an arc line from here and here. Why does it arc? Because the head rolls. It's a circle, right? So as it comes around in perspective, it has to roll around the other side. Comes around, rolls around the other side. So it kind of bows a little bit. So that ear is going to sit somewhere between those 2 points. See how it fits in there very nicely? And we have the proper angle. Now we have the proper size for this head, more or less. Now someone might have huge ears, and we'll have to account for that. Someone might have tiny ears. We have to account for that. But this gives us our general for most of the populace is going to fall within that range. Okay. Now, right now I'm not worried about it looking like Miguel. I'm worried about a really descriptive head that's teaching you lots of information about head structure. Because without head structure, we can't get a person's likeness. It's got to be generally in the right place. Then we can make it look like that person. What is this little circle I made here, and what's the one over here? That's the outside of the lip. I can hold my pencil up and say it comes off of the nose, something like that. And so I estimate where I think it is. What is it? It's a node, a tendinous attachment point for the orbicularis muscle around the lips. Okay? I don't want to get too technical with the anatomical verbiage. It's not to impress you. It's just I might as well articulate it correctly. I have to teach it, so I might as well learn it and continue to learn it through verbalization as well as actual execution. Okay, now this axis line across, the eye sits somewhere in the socket, right? That's an eyeball without a lid. It's just an eyeball. Okay, there's two of them. Okay, so there's your eyeballs. Now I need to wrap the lid. Well, first I need to find the tear duct. So down the angle of this nose, out to the width, I feel like that looks pretty good. That's a good guess. Yes, it bows a little bit more, so it kind of goes out like this and then cuts in, and we'll get that in later. So what I do here is I cut through that bow, and I come over to here, and I go parallel to this. Not perpendicular. Don't go up. You'll get the tear duct too close. Go same angle, and that's assuming you guessed well on this and guessed well on this. This angle, this width. That'll get you very close to where that eye should be. Now make sure you build it out from there, not in from there. So when I wrap the lid, it's going to do something like that. Upper lid, he's got pretty generous upper lid, so we'll go ahead and put a little bit of width for that. And now we need to get a pupil or an iris in there, excuse me. Okay, and the hot spot in it's probably about right there. I mean, the light's coming in from down here, so it'll be entering both the same way. Tear duct is right here, and tear duct's kind of sitting right in there pretty close. We have a lower lid that needs to wrap around that ball as well. Now we need to get the width of that, and he's got a little bit of the orbicularis oculi, which is the eye circular muscle that wraps around the eye. This is the circular band that wraps around the mouth. So there's the oris and the oculi. Both are circular band muscles that help your eye to move around, your lips to move. Now this tear duct over here, we don't have a system for finding it like this, so we're just going to guess that it's somewhere hidden on the other side of that particular nose. And that's just, you just got to, at some point, some things just have to be educated guessed at. But I am going to look at the axis line from here, run it across, make sure that's peaking at the same place, run across here, find the lower, lower, lower. So I kind of have my general scaffolding, bottom of the iris here, and then I look at this ellipse, and I try to duplicate it over here in the right position. That's the hardest thing you'll probably have to do in a head drawing is matching ellipses on the two eyeballs. If you get them off, the person's going to look wall-eyed, cross-eyed, lazy-eyed, I mean any number of things. So be, cut, again, take some time with that, relax. I know I make it look easy. I've done a million of them. Okay, so that's that head devoid of hair, right? So we're coming down, and here's your cranial mass. The highest part of the skull is here. We're looking up at him, so we're probably not seeing it. We're seeing this as probably your biggest spot. Now, this is the occipital area back here. This is the temporal area, and this is the frontal lobe. Now, the hair is here. It comes kind of up here, here, and then he's got this kind of piece right here that kind of comes off, and it kind of, the hair kind of rolls like this, and it's basically just a big cylinder, like that, right? Now, this is his part line, and then the hair is pretty tight to the head here. So that's kind of the general right now hair I'm dealing with right there. Okay, so we've got a lot of information here. We have the skull, we have the abstraction, and planes are starting to emerge out of the abstraction. These planes, I like to use John Assaro's The Assaro Head. Again, I go over that extensively online, so those of you who are online know that. In the head drawing fundamentals,